All right. Hey there. This is Geno, and today on Geno Likes, Geno likes Jared even more.
Again!
No, today we're going to talk about the Yamaha YC61. Just a few days ago, we did a video on the Yamaha CP88, which is a stage piano. So reference that, because I think that the cool thing about the YC and the CP together is it's the quintessential perfect keyboard setup. Unless you're in a band where you're having to harken back and grab a ton of like synthesizer sounds, you're going to be able to do everything you ever dreamed of with those two boards. They're very different. The CP88 is really a piano with piano style of key, and the YC stuff is really an organ-based keyboard. And what's really funny is I love how we invent things we think we know something. So I love to make this confession I've always loved keyboards growing up. I wasn't in guitar rock bands. I was in keyboard rock bands in the late 70s. You know, we did Kansas and Styx and Alan Parsons projects. So I'm really into this stuff, even though I grew up a drummer and became a bass player later. But I always thought waterfall keys meant on the organ when you had one set of keys and then another set and another set. I thought that was waterfall.
Like that,
yeah, but learning about the YC61, the waterfall key is a key that has a rounded edge on it. So little tidbit of information I thought was really fascinating. So Jared, this is actually Jared's personal keyboard. We do have them brand new on the floor. I think that's cooler when somebody happens to have their own instrument here. But so give us a quick rundown.
Yeah, like you said, this YC series is a bit more organ focused, and then a little bit of the synth stuff that you don't really get in the CP that we did last week. So like you said, the CP is going to be like what we'd call a stage piano. This would be more, organ focused. The coolest feature on this by far is the real drawbars that you have right here. So while you're playing, you can adjust in real time. Like the CP88 had those 3 panels. You had your acoustics, your kind of electric pianos, and then your others. Now you have 2 panels. So you've got your organ panel here, and then you've got everything else right here. In that everything else is going to be those acoustic pianos, the electric pianos, like your Whirly, your Rhodes, your Clav. But then you also have some synths, some lead sounds, some pad sounds, some strings, all that stuff right there. Same kind of features where you can save your live sets. Same effects that you can dial in, same ease of use with the click on, click off. But yeah, this is my own, the second we had it in the store, I was like, get me one of those. So I have this one, and then, like you said, the dream version is really this on top. If you're doing any kind of Hammond stuff, these things are amazing. They just updated the firmware. So they updated the rotary Leslie. If people don't know, the Leslie is the traditional organ speaker that you'd put next to a Hammond that has that rotary. And when you switch the Leslie switch, it changes that rotary from slow to fast. And we'll do a little demo.
And being a guy who moved many Leslies, especially when I was a kid, people don't realize what happens is that tub at the bottom was a low end speaker and there was a top end speaker. There was his 2 horns. When you change the speed, when you went from fast to slow, the weight of that drum instantly slowed down, whereas the horn took time to slow down. So that's something that's always programmed into these. So I think it'd be really interesting. Mention what the drawbars actually do, because I think a lot of folks that watch our videos aren't necessarily keyboard players, and even keyboard players that don't know. Explain what the drawbars actually do, because they're very, very cool.
So drawbars on an organ, a traditional Hammond or any other type of organ, are based off of an old school like church organ. So the drawbars represent all the different lengths of the pipes. Like if you see in a big church, like you've got the big pipes and then you've got like the little tiny pipes. Obviously, the more space there is, it's going to be a lower end, more of those low tones, whereas the higher is going to be less space, like a flute, for it so it's those higher, whistly tones. So if I put all the drawbars up, except the very bottom one, which is labeled 16, so that's like your 16 foot, so you can hear it's just kind of like low. You can do it a little lower to hear sort of that low end. And then as we start pulling more drawbars, we're going to get more of those overtones, more of the high-end sounds, and you can kind of hear the harmonics that will come out. You can hear like those overtones. I'll dial back our volume so we don't blast anybody out. But as you pull it, then if you get into like, they call like This is where the phrase "pull the stops out,"
Right,
you
pull
know,
the stops
it's
out.
everything's out. That's kind of where you get into your big, your gospel kind of stuff. Again, you can dial in that Leslie speaker. You can dial in the overdrive to get that sort of grittier.
I always call that the rock and roll organ too, because I think that's what I remember was like turn everything up, and they're
and what's cool
doing the
is
Boston
like,
thing.
Yeah,
right?
and the guys who are like really, pros at this as they're playing, they're like constantly messing with the drawbars. I usually find a setting for a song that I like, and then I'll do little tweaks. Maybe in the chorus, I'll pull a little bit more out to give it a little more depth, dial some stuff back in during the verses.
Cool. And it looks to me like the same type of thing where it's basically everything you need in one package.
Absolutely.
Which is what, and again, simplicity of use. As as obviously we're going to do a close-up of the panel, there is a lot of buttons on this thing. But again, the layout is much like the CP.
It's simple and it's user-friendly, and you can see what's there. If I go into my key settings here, you can adjust the volume. So this is like a little, Funky Roads patch. I can adjust the volume. I can adjust the tone right there. Yeah, if I want an effect, I just click this effect. Now it's got a little chorus thing on. There's like a wah, so it's something easy for everybody to hear. And again, your rate is right there, so you click that on off. There's a secondary, there's a little trim thing there. So everything, again, right at your fingertips. You're not diving into those sub-menus like we talked about. So I just love the ease of it all. You can mess with the speaker, the amp that those tones are going through.
Right.
You can mess with the reverb here, and then again, you have like a master EQ.
Very, very cool. So let me ask more of a utilitarian question. So do you find you probably do less stacking with this board than you would a CP88? Because I can think of CP88, you'd be like, we're doing an intro, I'm going to have a little bit of strings and a big piano.
Strings, pad,
with an organ
piano.
focused board, you probably don't really do that. Do you pretty much go back and forth?
You can. You have that
yes.
same capability. Like, so now I have both panels on. I can click one off. It's usually like I'm playing this on the top for all my organ stuff. Maybe a pad, maybe a little string thing or a synth lead. And then I'm using that bottom keyboard. Piano, maybe Rhodes, whirly kind of thing like that.
That was my guess, is that's kind of how
What's
it was
cool though is if you really start nerding out on the organ stuff, you can really dial in those sounds so specifically. And so again, I use that in the live set panel where, on this song, I want that full sound. So I'll just preset it so it's there. I can dial in the exact amount of reverb or overdrive and preset it. So when I get to that song in a set, I'm not trying to scramble and dial it all in. Because those organ, like I said, those organ settings can get really specific.
Nice. Well, and I gathered too, these effects are very organ focused as well. So you probably have that nice big deep purple distortion, John Lord kind of thing.
I like messing with the overdrive a lot.
Oh yeah, it's right
speaker.
there. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you're on the organ, it automatically defaults to the organ speaker.
Nice.
Then you can set here. It says rotary A. So that's set as that Leslie speaker. There's a couple different styles of Leslie. They just did that firmware update. This is like the studio version. And again, so this is like that Leslie on slow, and you click that, and now you'll hear that speed up. The other cool thing is you can customize how you want all the switches and everything to work. So there's a little pitch bend wheel here. Like if I was on a, let's see if it, on a normal patch, it'll like go, do a little pitch bend. I have that on the organ set to switch the Leslie. So I don't have to push a button. That's sort of more traditional. So if I flick it, I've just set that. I also have a volume pedal hooked up into here, which is also a Yamaha product. And you can, again, program that to be a volume pedal and expression pedal. You can kind of make it do whatever you want.
Nice. You
could have a pedal, flick your Leslie if you want to do it that way. A lot of guys like to play that so their hands are free. They don't have to move, So it's very customizable.
I think the old days, wasn't it a switch on the floor?
Yeah, there's usually like a...
kind of remember like a big old
switch.
Big old...
Totally.
I got old. Like, it's weird when I think back to those days.
Back in the old time,
Well, I think that's a great overview. Again, like I said, it's really fun. Come on in the store, put your fingers on it. Jared's here a lot of times to show you through, as well as some of the other guys that know the keyboard quite well. So, why don't you serenade us out?
Sure.